Match angling for pike. Oh, I can already hear the keyboards getting smashed with negative one finger typing going, this cunt's a noddy. He's wearing a fox hat. He must be a fucking tube. Roll the intro. Yes, folks, match angling for pike. Here in Northern Ireland and in the south, match angling for pike is quite a big thing. Now, there is some progression where the matches have changed for the better. They are using measure boards. You go out fishing with a person in the boat that you don't know. It's not your friend. It's like a randomer that you put out in the boat with. The pike is caught. It's put on the measure board. It's photographed and it's put back in. Whilst I'm not really comfortable about pike matches in general, that I can kind of see that if you're going to fish like that, then that's probably the best way to go. And that's fine. That's cool. I'm not here to tell anybody what they can and can't do. It's not my bag. The pike matches that really kind of boil one's urine, so to speak, are what I class as barrel matches. What's a barrel match? I hear you cry. Well, quite simply, it's a plastic barrel that has a hole cut in the side of it, and it's laid in your boat, and it's filled with a little bit of water, and then the pike you get is put into this hole in the barrel, and then you take it weighed. Now, being someone that's seen quite a lot of these, more than I really ever wanted to, I can tell you that 95% of all of them that I've seen don't have oxygen lines going into the water. The majority of them have nowhere near enough water in the barrel, even for jack pike. And the water that's in the barrel is put in at the start of the day and drained at the end of the day. So if you could think of dissolved oxygen in water, it's like you or me getting locked in an airtight room. Every breath that you take depletes your level of oxygen, and if you're in there for a long period of time, you're going to use up the oxygen that's available in the room to breathe. If they open the door, take you out, and put your mate in, then your mate doesn't have the same oxygen that you did when you started, because you've been in there for however long breathing the oxygen, using it up. So your mate that's now in there, he has less oxygen. This adds fatigue, it adds stress, it causes stuff called lactic acid to build up in muscle tissue. Again, just the same as if you went to the gym and you were kind of doing a lot of the arm bar presses, whatever you fucking gym freaks do, and you kind of come out and you're like, fucking feel the burn, or the beach is over there and all that sort of nonsense. That burn is the lactic acid in your muscle tissue, and the only way to make that lactic acid go away is rest and recuperation. Human beings, we rest and we recuperate. This means that we're sat on our arses and we're sucking in lots of O2. Not the phones, we're sucking in fresh air. Air circulates the body, blood takes oxygen around the body, blood flow pushes lactic acid out. Now, I'm sure there's going to be guys that's more educated than me on the gym side of it that'll probably give you a better explanation on lactic acid buildup. However, think of it from the fish's perspective, where you are a fish that's been caught. You're then put into a enclosure that has insufficient water for you to kind of remain comfortable. So straight away you're at a point of stress. You're then taken from where you were quite happily sat. That might have been a territory for you. That might have been your little patch, your little rock in the ocean. That might have been your little bit as a fish. You're then taken to somewhere else to be weighed, and then once you're weighed, you're dumped over the side of the jetty, and hey ho spaghetti-o, you're back in the water again. Now, that stress level, that sends it doesn't do the fish much good, guys. I'm going to show you some pictures now of what I'm talking about in the boat when I talk about like the barrels. You see a picture? Right. Now.
So here you go, lads. Here's a quick picture of a boat at a launch. This is a competition in the south of Ireland. You can see that the boats here have barrels in the front of them. Probably not the best place to put them, but you're going to see a close-up of the brown barrel. You're telling me that you're going to fit even a double-figured pike in that hole? And then take it to somewhere to get it weighed after a journey of it thrashing around inside that there with not enough water. You're telling me that that's going to be anyways healthy for the fish. I'm going to go out on a limb and say anyone that puts fish in a barrel should probably take up golf. And here's another. This one was actually from the urn. It's, you know, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't recommend anyone do it, but that's just me.
But if putting fish into a barrel is not enough of a wrong thing to do as an angler, then using Boga Grips is definitely right up there with my #1. Do not do it, or I will hang you by the jaw with your own fucking Boga Grip. For those of you that don't know what a Boga Grip is, here's a picture. But Scopes, where is your evidence that Boga Grips are being used on the urn? Well, pike that I have caught with their bottom jaw smashed in half, that'd be evidence, wouldn't it? Oh, but that could have happened anywhere. All right, okay. What about anglers competing in your competitions using Boga Grips and taking photographs of themselves using Boga Grips? And then these photographs being supplied to the official page of the competition to be used on their social media platforms and the internet platforms. Would that be evidence enough? Like this? Yep, the official page of the competition. I'm going to show you now the rules for last year's competition. Where do you get a kick at this one? You'll like this one. Where do you see this?
You might have to stop this picture or pause it just for a second here, but you can clearly see the rules and that this was 2018's Pike Classic Super Match thing. Again, I'm going to go on the record and say, if you're putting pike in a barrel, I urge you, sell your gear, take up golf or barbecuing or underwater basket.
Years ago, we used to see guys using gags for pike. Now, a gag was basically a spring, 2 wires on a spring, and you put it into their mouth and it sprang open like that, and it kept the pike's mouth open. I don't know why anyone ever needed it. I don't know why anyone ever needed to use them, because in my entire life of fishing, most of it for pike, I have never used one, never needed to. If you're able to put your hand in its chin, in behind the gill raker, the mouth opens. Clear and simple, mouth opens. The pike gags now are, thankfully, for the most part, consigned to the dustbin of history. Same as gaffs. People don't use them anymore, which is great. When I first started pike angling back in the early 90s, the use of like a gaff was still prevalent. And people would argue to me that, well, I'm only putting a little hole in its jaw. It's not going to do it any harm. It's like, let me put the gaff in your jaw and see how much you like it. Let me lead you up and down a field with the gaff in your jaw, and we'll see if you want me to use that on you again. When I first started pike fishing, it was in a match environment. It was for a local pike league fishing on a local lake outside of Omagh. Quite famous. I was a junior angler. I was fishing for a team that was sponsored by a local pub. Now, I'm not going to look back on my time as a junior angler. I was a child. But growing up through that, it kind of highlighted the good, the bad, and the fucking awful. It really did. I can remember being a child at a meeting where the guys in the Fish This League, come together and they were having the chats about what to do and what to do for this season. And I can remember raising the subject. It was myself and a guy called James Stewart who raised the subject about buying waistlings for the pike. Because before that, the pike were being weighed under their chin. Yep. You had your Avon scales, you had your pike, and you had the hook. And the hook was put under the chin and the pike was right like that. Wrong, 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 wrong. I went out and I bought a sling. It was something like £15 off Billy Clark Tackle in England. You know how I paid for it? I phoned Billy Clark Tackle up in England and said, I'm a teenager, I'm not too sure, I don't have a checkbook, how can I pay for it? And Billy Clark Tackle said to me, well, go to the shop, we'll do you a favour, change the £15 or £14, whatever it was, into stamps, put the stamps in an envelope and send us the stamps. And that's how they took payment. I've never dealt with a company like that again, but I'm sure they only did it to probably humour a child. But either way, anglers went out and bought their own slings. It took those anglers to go to a meeting in front of all the rest of the anglers to say, look guys, hanging a fish under the chin, bad idea, buy slings. So we got slings. Same meeting, let's ban the use of gaffs. Oh aye, let's do that. Because we actually had to make that rule back in the day. Now this is before the days of unhooking mats, this is before the days of proper pike nets. A specimen net back in the day was a large salmon net. The guys would frequently catch the fish, and it got crammed into a trout net, or it got dragged up the bank and it got unhooked. And when you look back through today's eyes, you think, it's a bit cringeworthy. Wouldn't it do that? I wouldn't like to see that done again. But it was a very steep learning curve for me as a child. As a child, I met some of the best anglers that I've ever met, and they were fit to tell me, this is what you do, this is how you do it, this is how you unhook, this is how you hold, this is how you set up. These are guys that to this day are still my friends. I still call them my friends. I invited some of them to my wedding. They're good people. So I can say to people with my hand on my heart that having seen pike handling that was terrible, I don't want to see it again. I would sooner educate than lose my temper and jump up and down. I'd be happy if I could. I'd happily stand and talk to anybody that says to me, "Oh, I use a Boga grip. I have no problems with it. It's never done me any harm." And I'll discuss my points. I'll explain to them that they're wrong, and I'll encourage them to throw the fucking thing in the loch. Boga grips aren't what you need. Just the same as pike gags weren't what we needed back in the day. Just the same as gaffs weren't what pike needed back before that. We're lucky in the sport we are because things have progressed so much. It's got so good. You can now go out and buy an unhooking mat for less than a tenner. The last time I took my wife and I were out for a beer, the round of drinks came to £11. That was... You could buy an unhooking mat that saves your fish for less than the price of 2 drinks in a pub. There's no excuse no more. There's enough education on YouTube. There's enough education in books and magazine articles, and there's enough clubs out there. There's enough people out there that know what they're doing. There isn't really an excuse anymore for bad behaviour. I've lost count of the amount of times I've been fishing on the bank and I've been asked questions by youngsters or novice anglers. People have come up to me and they've asked me, how do you do that? What are you doing? Can I see that rig? And I've sat down and I've explained it to people. I have given out, I've made up traces for people. I've showed them how to make them and then said, there you go, you have that. Or I've given floats, leads, end tackle. I'd sooner help people than, you're a fucking idiot, you're clearly a naughty, and laugh at them and belittle them. I will help if I can help. If I can't help, then I'm probably going to be pig ignorant to you. I'm probably just going to be rude. I have never turned around to anybody and said I am an expert. I know everything, because I don't. I'm always learning. Every day is a school day. This is why when I meet pike anglers that are, famous, like guys that write books, guys that have their own shops, I'll ask them questions. I'll probably annoy them by asking them questions, and they're probably going to go, fuck, here comes this bastard again. He's going to ask me 1,000 questions. I'll ask questions. And if I can learn something, then I can go away happy. So don't think that I'm being a hostile, angry guy. I'm not being a hostile, angry guy. But come on. We have better ways to fish than putting pike in a bucket. At this point in time, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has liked, subscribed, and come said hello on my channel. You guys definitely rock, and would like to say thanks to everyone that's on the Facebook page as well. I do try to answer all the comments I get, so don't shout at me if I haven't got around to them. Obviously trolls, they can kiss my swinging balls because I don't really care. And if you haven't subscribed, feel free to. I don't bite. It's that time of year where bugs are annoying the shite out of everybody. Get yourself one of these bad boys. Can you hear that? That high-pitched whine? These here, brilliant. Poundland, £1. Working your forearm. Also good if your wife doesn't make the cup of tea, you can give her a quick pat on the backside to encourage her. Might get tea, might get stabbed.